crimes that happen in our jurisdictions. In this particular case, you can refer to case number 79-062-0218. Working together with our multi-agency partners across the country is important. Now, speaking directly to our community members, please know that you are important in helping us pursue justice and closure for all victims of crime, especially homicide. If you see something, say something, and do something. Now, I would like to introduce one of our partners in this arrest, Bill Del Bagno, Special Agent in charge of the FBI Field Office. Bill.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chief Aziz. I'm Bill Del Bagno. I'm the Special Agent in charge of the Baltimore Field Office of the FBI. I appreciate being here today, standing beside our partners in Prince George's County Police Department and the State's Attorney's Office as we announce the long-awaited arrest of Kathy Donahue's killer. With this arrest, justice is being served for Kathy. The answers are finally being answered for her family. Many of her loved ones have passed away without having this closure, without having heard we made an arrest in Kathy's case. That ends today. 2 weeks ago, March 3rd, marked 46 years after Kathy's brutal murder. On March 3rd, 1979, she was just 31 years old. She had spent the night celebrating with her friends. Her life was unfairly and viciously taken. She was beaten, raped, and killed. And for years, no one knew why or who was the killer. Last Monday, despite decades that have passed since 1979, and despite the distance the suspect lived in several states away, and despite the fact that a new generation of investigators are working this case, Kathy's killer was finally put into handcuffs. Though it almost took 5 decades, law enforcement did not give up fighting for her. Collaboration among law enforcement partners and advancement in technology made this arrest possible. The FBI's investigative genetic genealogy team in Baltimore began working this case last July. The IGG generates new leads when other methods have been exhausted. The crimes are violent cases, like Kathy's, unsolved homicides, and sexual assaults. In some cases, we're looking to identify the suspect. In other cases, we use IGG to name the unidentified victims. Investigative genetic genealogy combines unknown crime scene DNA with genealogy research and historical records to generate a lead. Investigators use publicly accessible databases for information to narrow down people who could potentially be the suspect based on their genetic relationship. Only then do we see comparison between the potential suspect's DNA and the crime scene DNA. Our IGG team in Baltimore has used this amazing tool to solve violent crimes that law enforcement could not resolve through traditional investigative techniques, just like we did in Kathy's case. The FBI will continue to use IGG to solve violent crimes, whether that crime took place 50 years ago or yesterday. We'll use every tool available to bring justice for our victims and their families. I want to thank Prince George's County Police Department for their constant partnership, and the FBI Charlotte Field Office who assisted us in this case. The FBI vows to continue to work every day to keep our community safe and prioritize the partnerships that are so vital to that work. Thank you. I'll pass it to the state's attorneys.
The announcement today really highlights the fact that justice that is sometimes delayed is not necessarily justice denied. And I'm very proud of the work that the Prince George's County Police Department, along with the team at the FBI and others, have done in order to bring us to this point. I'm also proud to say that in 2020, my office applied for and received a grant for forensic genetic genealogy testing. We were one of very few offices across the country that received that very important grant to test old samples to solve cold case homicides as well as rapes. In this case, it involved both rape and a homicide. So I'm very proud that our office was able to lead in obtaining such a very important grant. And this is the very first case where that grant was used to test DNA, and it has resulted in charging of this individual. There are other cases that we have solved using forensic genetic genealogy. And so we believe that as we go into the future, we will be able to resolve more cases using this very important technology. I would like to thank Bob Dean, who is our cold case homicide prosecutor, along with Special Prosecutor Jonathan, Church. I'm sorry, Jonathan Church, who will be prosecuting this case and have worked hand in hand with the Prince George's County Police Department and the FBI. We are very pleased about this arrest. We look forward to the extradition being successful, and then we will do our part to hold the suspect in this case accountable. And we'd like to thank you all so much for being here, and I know we'll be happy to answer questions at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, State's Attorney. Although the Donahue family has asked to respect their privacy, they have asked the Prince George's County Police Department to read their statement. The entire Donahue family would like to express our deepest gratitude to everyone involved in this investigation, especially the men and women of the Prince George's County Police Department for their tireless efforts and unwavering dedication to seeking justice. We will always be grateful for their determination, their compassion, and their relentless pursuit of truth, which has finally given us a sense of closure that we never thought possible after all this time. I'd now like to open up for questions, and we'll take a few questions. From Bob Barnard?
Do we know what kind of family is still alive? Did she have kids or siblings, or do we know who was of the Donahue family, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, let me call up Sergeant McDonald here, who was the lead investigator on this case, making sure that his team, he has some information that he would give.
Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant McDonald. What was your question again?
Just firstly, the family. What kind of family does she still have? Did she have children, siblings who are still around? I'm assuming her parents are not.
Her parents are deceased. She has 2 siblings that's living, an older brother and an older sister. She was never married, no kids.
And then, Sergeant McDonald, what was Mr. Brown's reaction when the knock on his door came last week?
Solemn, no reaction. Cold,
Did he say anything?
no.
Surprised?
No reaction.
Do we know anything about his criminal history? Did he had run-ins with the law in the past?
Yes, he did have prior criminal history. He was arrested in 1967 in Nassau County, New York for armed robbery. He served 11 years on that sentence. He was released in June of 1978.
And what since? Anything?
He had law enforcement contact, but criminal history. 2006, MPDC arrested him for solicitation prostitution.
This is a one-off murder.
It appears so.
Can someone state what actually linked him to the crime scene? What linked him to the crime? I know you mentioned genealogy. What linked him?
his DNA
Was it found somewhere near the crime scene or
on her body.
It was preserved all these years.
Yes.
Can someone take us to maybe Sergeant McDonald, what kind of relative was first, like, you find the DNA, you find a cousin, and then you work it back and you track it down to Roger Brown?
Turn it over.
So I won't go through necessarily the specific of the family members, but just as you build out a family tree, we build out in public accessible databases who those relatives are, and then identify those suspects that fit that age profile and are in the area during that time.
How satisfying is this for you and your teams?
This is fantastic. The team that works this for the Baltimore field office, it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of effort that goes into it. And the moments where it becomes known who these suspects are, it's just incredibly gratifying. And really it is bringing justice to where there was injustice, and our partnership with others, and knowing that we worked so long with Prince George's County along the way to even strengthen those partnerships.
Was he ever under suspicion or ever looked at in connection to this case?
I'll turn that back over.
Person of interest in that feature?
Unfortunately, during that initial investigation, no suspects were identified. And of course, in 1979, DNA did not exist. So no, he was not a primary suspect until the advent of forensic genetic genealogy.
So he had not been talked to the question about this at all?
No.
Sergeant McDonald, how did you guys come upon this case? Did you just have layers of cold cases and then this one came up? Let's see what we can do?
No, actually, we always review our unsolved homicides. This case has been reviewed several times over the years. 2004, the DNA was retested. 2014, it was retested again to see if we get identify any suspect. And then in 2020, like State's Attorney Braveboard stated, we received a grant from Bureau of Justice Assistance. We identified the cases that we were going to investigate using those grant funds, and this was one of the cases.
was there any indication that he had been on the run? Had he been in other states? Had he lived in other states? Or was he just staying in North Carolina?
He stated he moved to North Carolina in 2017, so he was here up until 2017.
And what more, Sergeant McDonald, can you tell us about Miss Donahue?
I spoke with her brother, who is still with us. He's 84 years of age. She was an outgoing young lady. She was, like I stated earlier, she was from Allentown, Pennsylvania. She relocated to Washington, D.C. area for employment. She worked in this area for a period of time. She had an older sister who she was really close with. She returned home to be with her. I think her brother told me that the sister was married and was expecting a child, and she moved back to assist with that, and then she moved back to the D.C. area thereafter.
Someone mentioned she was out with friends. Do we know what she was doing that night? Was she-
Oh, they went to dinner after work. Her and several co-workers, they went to dinner after work in Georgetown.
What did she,
How did she end up here? She lived in Arlington.
where'd she go?
How much time is he facing now? He's 82 years old. How much left?
Well, I mean, it's a rape and a murder. And so, just like anyone else, he's facing up to life without the possibility of parole.
Sorry, can I ask? She went to dinner in Georgetown. Was she kidnapped in Georgetown and brought over, because she lived in Arlington, supposedly.
That's still under investigation.
But she lived in Arlington, went to dinner in Georgetown, ended up dead in here.
That's correct.
I know you said that she came here for work. What did she do? She worked with the government?
At the time of her murder, she was a secretary, and she worked for the American Federation of State County Employees, or union.
So she worked with you?
Yes.
But no charge of kidnapping.
That's still under investigation.
Can you explain once again in simplest terms how the DNA and genetic
So DNA is collected from crime scenes. That's done routinely nowadays. And that DNA is created into a profile. We use publicly accessible genealogy databases where that profile is built to identify family and family members. And then in identifying those family members, identifying those that would fit the right age, year group, location, to identify the potential suspects. We've had a number of cases throughout the last couple of years. Pam Conyers is another one. Most recently, Rachel Morin in the Hartford County, where we were able to apply investigative genetic genealogy to identify the suspects.
Question for either Ms. Brayboy or Mr. Dean. How challenging and satisfying is it to prosecute a cold case?
Well, it's absolutely, it presents challenges because remember, there are witnesses sometimes in these cases, I'm not talking about this one in particular, who may not be available because they're no longer with us or they've moved on or they've forgotten. So these are tough cases. We have tried them. We have been successful with them. But it is very satisfying because, again, oftentimes the families have been left without any real closure for decades in some cases. And to know that they were not forgotten by law enforcement, by those who are in responsible positions, to know that their loved one was never forgotten and their case was still very important. It means so much to the family. And so, Bob, why don't you talk about prosecuting these types of cases?
Thank you. In this particular case, because we're in Maryland, and Maryland has a very unique law that no other state has, where we have to apply to a judge before we utilize the investigative genealogy. That's the starting point. It was 38 months ago when Sergeant McDonald brought that case to me and suggested that we pursue investigative genealogy. And it was 38 months ago that I applied to a judge for permission to do that. And it took 38 months of building the family tree, retesting the evidence that was collected back in 1979, and finally, with the help of law enforcement in North Carolina, the work of the FBI, and our cold case homicide unit, we were able to put it together. These cases are particularly challenging because of the passage of time on many of them. Witnesses no longer exist. And we are, so far in this case, able to locate essential witnesses. And it's just, it's just a matter of being patient, utilizing what technology is there to give us. And I think that speaks well for what both the state's attorney's office and the police department have done, again, with the training and help of the FBI. So, thank you.
We'll take one more question.
And I know this is probably not the case, but are there any initial investigators who are still living and may have worked on this case?
Yeah.
The primary investigator that was initially assigned to this case, he's deceased. But the other investigators that worked this case, they're still living, and I spoke with them, and they know it's closed. So, yes, which we do all the time. Anytime we work a cold case and we solve it, we always contact the initial investigator if they are still alive.
Your first name is, Sergeant?
Gregory,
Gregory.
yes.
Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it.